Welcome to the Dad Hammer Podcast, a casual Warhammer show where we discuss all things 40k, Age of Sigmar, and literally everything else Warhammer related. So, whether you are a beginner, a seasoned veteran, or wherever you are in your Warhammer journey, we are glad that you joined us. I am your host, David the Warboss, and I am joined by my friend, the bearded ogre, Stu. How we doing, man?
Doing great. Nurgle's blessing has blessed my house multiple times, and hopefully he has enjoyed the offerings that I have given to him. But I am definitely excited to be back here to talk all things Warhammer. So
Yeah, are you grateful for Nurgle's blessing? I think that's the big question.
I guess I think I found a couple extra pustule things on my back, but that's not the best.
That's
It's
gross.
it'll pass, I guess. So
Yeah. Well, we've got so Steve and Lee are not able to join us this evening for various reasons, but that's okay. We do a rotation, and by rotation I mean everyone but me. Apparently, I'm the stalwart.
exactly, yeah, yeah, the two
So
first. So
that's right. It's okay. We're good. We got actually this. It is very fortuitous that you are here even more so because we have a great show. We're going to talk quite a bit about Age of Sigmar. Like
yeah,
usually
baby.
we are mostly 40k because that's
Hmm.
it is the more popular of the games, but we're going to talk a lot about Age of Sigmar because there's all kinds of stuff in the news. We're going to talk the Darkoath box set that has recently been revealed and some implications of the supplement and what that means for Age of Sigmar and also a little bit of 40k. And then we are also going to hit on the new Dawnbringers Book 5. And if you're not aware of the narrative stuff in Age of Sigmar either, 40k, the reason we're going to bring this up is because they've revealed a new game mode called Strongpoints, which is very interesting, all about terrain and being able to play team battles against a central point of terrain. Pretty cool there. And then we will round out the show with another issue, if you will, of Retro White Dwarf.
Yeah,
We're gonna
baby.
we're gonna talk about the September 1999 issue 237 of White Dwarf. So really looking forward to that. And
What what year did you say?
1999.
Oh man,
Yeah,
1999.
I
Such a
was
great
in I
year.
was I was in high school.
I was just
So,
about to go into high school, so
okay,
yeah,
okay,
so
yeah, it's a good year.
yeah.
Yeah, lots of good stuff. All right. So, first of all, thank you so much for listening, and we always appreciate it. Remember, you can reach us at contact@dadhammerstudios.com if there's any particular topic you want us to read through or talk about on the show. Please make sure that you hit us up there or on our Instagram at Dadhammer Studios, and of course, our YouTube channel. Leave a comment, let us know what you think. So, with that said, let's get into the content. And Stu, I'm going to bring up our first picture here, and it is the Darkoath box set. So, I know that you are hyped. For anyone who is not aware of Darkoath and what the heck that is, it is a like an offshoot of the Slaves to Darkness army in Age of Sigmar. And Stu, I know that you are super excited for these guys.
Hmm.
I like the Slaves to Darkness. I think they are a cool looking aesthetic because I'm an old school Hero Quest player, so I always loved the Chaos Warriors, and so the Slaves to Darkness were always something in the back of my mind, thinking, man, if I ever did another army, I don't know how many armies do I have, but if I ever did another one, I might go Slaves to Darkness. These Dark Oath guys are more of like the human savage version of the
Yeah,
Slaves to Darkness, and so maybe give us a little bit of a once over of the Slaves to Darkness Dark Oath.
yeah, man. Like I am super hyped about this. I've been wanting this kind of box set for many years, ever since they released the single Dark Oath model in the Silver Tower, um, like role playing game that they released. I was like, yes, they have to make more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, these models look sick. And I have to say, I called it. I knew that once Old World came out and they were like Xing certain kits from AOS to convert over to there, I was like, they've got to X the Marauders, because like they were like the oldest models almost in the whole like Age of Sigmar range. I mean, I think
Hmm.
they came out in like 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 in the 90s maybe. Like I mean,
Yeah.
they've been there for a while. So so yeah, but yeah, these look sick. And I just love everything about them. I think what I like the most, especially how they advertised it on the Warcom side of like it being the dark mirror of Cities of Sigmar,
Hmm.
which brings up a lot of questions of like, are they going to, like I said, add more models to the range and maybe fill it out to where it's like, you know, it's not as chaosy as like the rest of the range, you know, like the Dark Oath models now, they like with um the Slaves to Darkness rulebook, you pick which alliance to the gods that you are part of. So either Korn, Nurgle, Slanesh, or Zinch, or it can
Hmm.
be um, uh, the one where it's like undetermined or whatever. That's not the word that it used. I can't really think of it right now.
Chaos Undivided. Is that
Undivided.
the?
Yes, yes, that
Yeah,
is it.
yeah.
Yeah. And so the Dark Oath automatically get the undivided keyword. So you can't pick whether or not you want to be part of like a particular god because they follow all gods. You know, they don't. They just
Hmm.
follow. So which is really really cool. I like that the aesthetic because the fact that like it's just more converting capabilities and painting scheme capabilities of not like locking you into a certain type of like paint scheme or whatever. And so yeah, I'm super hyped about all this Darko stuff.
Yeah, it's just I think what I like about it, and after playing, I don't play Slaves to Darkness, but I play Chaos Space Marines in 40K, and after painting, oh man, and I've said it on the show multiple times, after painting so many legionaries with the black and the gold trim, it looks really cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, and I actually asked my wife when she came up and casually looked at all of the armies I'd had, and shook her head for a moment. But then I said, okay, which one's your favorite? And I was hoping she would say Votan, because those are my
uh,
favorite. Maybe even Orcs. No, she went for the Chaos, and I'm like, why would you pick the Chaos? And she said because they pop, and which
oh,
is
okay.
which is a little weird because they have the fewest amount of color on them, but
Hmm.
maybe it's the gold trim. Anyway, the point being, Slaves to Darkness have a similar aesthetic, a similar vibe, right?
Hmm.
But I like the fact that um, the Dark Oath, it feels completely different, right? It's
Hmm.
you can play Slaves to Darkness. It reminds me of what the Kroot are doing for the Tau.
Yeah.
You can come in and play all robots, with Tau, or you can have the swamp creatures. That's kind of what they look like, right? So for
Hmm.
here, you get the armor clad Slaves to Darkness, super dark black armor kind of stuff, and then you can go to Dark Oath and have gives me a little bit of a Conan the Barbarian,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
that kind of
Hmm.
thing, like
Hmm.
with the shrunken, or not the shrunken heads, but their heads everywhere.
Hmm.
I don't know what that's all about, not being a Slaves to Darkness player, but I mean, every single one of these models here that I got up on the screen, especially this Fiend model, it looks nasty,
Oh yeah, that
but
thing's sick.
every single one of these things has just a head or a skull or something that where they have taken from another opponent and put it on their, as a
Or
as a
maybe it was
trophy.
the person that held that title before, you know, and they're just
Yeah.
like, you know what, you're not doing a good job. I'm just going to chop your head off and carry it around with me, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
which I
I
think is
mean,
cool. So
yeah, I agree. I like what they're doing with this. The one thing that I wish more armies would do something like this, where they have an option, right? Where it's, if you buy into an army, the last thing you want is to be confined into one particular
Hmm.
paint scheme or play
Yeah.
style. I felt that way a little bit with orcs. I mean, normally I would, but they have such a wide range of models, and but they don't look all that different. You're either going to go savage, orc boys with weapons and stuff charging, or you're going to go with vehicles. You might do a little mishmash of both. And then they came out with the more of the prehistoric orcs, and that gives you a little bit of a different vibe.
Is
But
that the
it's
one that
not
are
as
on the little squig guys? The little
yeah, the
squig
squig
horses?
squig squig hog boys. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
but it's not as big of a departure as I would like to see, like they're doing with Dark Oath, right? They
Hmm.
just feel completely different than the normal Slaves to Darkness models. So,
Hmm.
and Stu, I was going to ask you, are there any other armies, specifically in Age of Sigmar, where you feel like they could do this, give this similar treatment? Right? Is there another army where they could give a complete departure and be able to sell a box set? Thinking about ogres, for example.
Hmm.
What could they do anything with ogres that's not already been done?
I don't know. I'm also an ogre player. I mean, when AOS originally started, I mean, it was separated into uh, the ogre gluttons and then the beast claw raiders. Like there were two separate
Mhm. Mhm.
factions in books. I mean, I guess. I mean, I feel like I don't know. Those can kind of stick together. The one that really sticks out to me the most is making. I mean, I guess it's its own book, but within like the grand order of things, they put Dars of Cain in the order
Mhm.
fact in the order Grand Alliance, which it's a very thin line for them to be good guys. Like it's just I don't know. It's very very slivery.
There are no
But
good guys, Stu. There are
yeah,
no good guys.
I guess that's true. But I guess I don't know, man. Like the orcs, the Iron Jaws, the that book. I mean, that's got three different, completely different like orc
The
families. I guess you could,
factions.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
factions. That
Mhm.
could be maybe one. I'm just trying to think.
Well, because I play Skaven, and they tried to do that a little bit, where you've got the different clans in the Skaven. But I never felt like they have some of the, and I haven't played them in a while, but they've got the different clans. I remember one was I think it was Clan Molder. Um, the ones where they have the abominations, like my favorite model
Yeah.
in Age of Sigmar right now. It's the one with all
Hmm.
the rats like stitched together, and so I like that kind of notion, but it never was a fully fledged separate box set.
Hmm.
So that's something I think what I would like to see more of. That said, it brings us kind of to our next topic here, which is as part of the Dark Oath box set, they are releasing a battletome supplement, which you can get this in one of two ways. You can do the if you buy the box set, it comes in a hard copy. I don't know if it's probably just some paper. I doubt it's like
Yeah,
a
I think it's just paper. Yeah, like it's like
yeah.
a
It's not gonna be like a hardback book, but
for
whatever.
12 pages. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. So.
But it's still a hard copy, right? So that's cool. It comes in there with the cards and tokens and things like that. Or you can get it as a PDF, a free PDF, free, like the actual free.
Hmm.
And I, I like this. I always felt Age of Sigmar was a little more generous than 40K, and I wonder if that's because they're not as popular as 40K. It's still an amazing game,
Hmm.
arguably the better game, but I wonder that if they give more free stuff away because they want more people to play Age of Sigmar, whereas with 40K they don't do that as much. It's more of a
Hmm.
dedicated purchase. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this supplement for
Yeah, I
Age of
mean,
Sigmar?
I think I think part of the reason why like they're making it free is the fact that like it is a supplement to the Slaves to Darkness, So if you already have the Slave to Darkness, battle tome, that like it's not like another like I said, 12-page book you got to go out and buy.
Yeah.
I mean, but then it's like it gives me questions of like you said earlier, like are they going to keep adding to the range? Like are they going to add to it so much where it does become its own battle tome?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that'd be fantastic. I mean, I've got thoughts. So if anyone from Warhammer's listening right now, give me a call and put a message down below, and I'll reach out and give you my thoughts. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think just like I said, the fact that it is weird that how like for AOS they do it for, but they don't do it so much for 40K. Like,
Mm,
what do you think? Like, they have a lot of other supplement books in 40K, especially what first comes to mind is like Space Marines, you
yeah, tell me
know?
about it.
So what do you think? Like, why do you feel like that they're kind of giving more free love to AOS than 40K?
Well, I mean the taking Space Marine chapters for example, there's so much more lore, meat behind those.
Hmm.
That's more than 12 pages. I mean, those are full fledged. They have their own history. It's not that they couldn't. They have very creative people, obviously, at Games Workshop, so they could flesh out the Dark Oath history and lore and put all kinds of pictures and painting guides and all extra stuff into a supplement and call it a full-fledged battle tome. um, I think it's just they just choose not to. I don't know
Hmm.
why, but the with the Space Marine chapters, like if I'm a Space Wolves player, so I have to buy the Space Marine Codex and have all that stuff, and then I have the freedom to paint Space Marines like I want. If I want to paint them Space Wolvy, and then I can add the wolf cloaks and stuff, but then I have to buy another Codex. So it's like, I mean, of course, the Space Wolves Codex isn't out yet,
Hmm.
but they have it for Dark Angels, so it's that kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, I wish the reason is money, right?
Yeah.
Because they know people are going
Well,
to
yeah,
buy
because
it.
I think especially for like the Space Marine stuff, both those books, like you said, the Space Marine and then like Space Wolves, like aren't they around the same price? Like I'm pretty sure they're around the
Yeah,
same price, aren't they? Like
yeah, yeah,
that's it's not like the Space Wolves one's like cheaper because it's a smaller amount than the Space Marine, so it's only like an extra like $10 or whatever. So
yeah. I mean, they give you in the Space Marine chapters, they give you some special abilities and different paint schemes and chapter specific models, and all that's cool. I I just don't know why they would or wouldn't go about it the same way with Dark Oath. I mean, there's clearly a fan base for
mhm,
this model range, and Slaves to Darkness are fairly popular. So why not flesh that out and create if not a specific army, maybe it's limitations with the model range and they don't have enough, kind of what you were
mhm,
saying, like they don't have as many models. They could, of course, they have tons of things to draw from. They could always create more, but they don't have them at hand. So maybe this is a way to test the waters. Like, okay, let's see
yeah,
how the Dark Oath box set does. If tons of people buy them, if they're really popular, if we see them at the tournaments and all the feedback is really good, maybe then they take that and say, well, let's look into creating
mhm,
the its own army. So I don't know why they wouldn't do it with 40K. I wish they would. When they first
mhm,
came out on 10th edition with the index and all of that,
mhm,
that was great. That was great. Everything was free.
yeah. Well,
But
they've kind of doing it with the Combat Patrol. Like all those rules are free. So um I don't
but
know, maybe.
it's a different kind of thing. I mean, that almost feels like the combat patrol isn't a supplement. It's its
Hmm.
own thing. They don't really give you a ton of lore with that. But I mean, who knows? I wish I could give a great answer for why, but it just comes down to,
Yeah.
but what's profitable, what are people buying, and then what are they going to go from there,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
guess. So, all right, so let's I'll ask you one other question as a follow-up for Dark Oath. If you could bring one additional model to the range and anything, nothing that's been revealed yet, would you want like a big boy, like a really big model? Would you want some kind of siege weapon? What would you want as a wish list for the Dark
Man,
Oath?
I would actually like to have mean, most people that know me know that I'm a brawler, so I like to be up face to face with people.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but I'll go back and forth with it. But I think it'd be great to have either a unit that carries like giant weapons, so like great axes, great swords, great maces, whatever, anything great, great. great, severed heads of their enemies that they just bash into people's faces.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would be cool. Or just having like a ranged unit, so like archers or something like that. And the only reason why I say that too is because looking off of the other Darko stuff they have, and more specifically with the first Underworlds unit they came out with, I think it's Thestria Scroll Scryer or something like that. And
Hmm.
in that unit, there's two guys in there that carry great weapons, and there's one guy in there that has a bow that has like a hunting dog with him.
Yep.
And just kind of fleshing out those little bits and pieces, I think that'd be really cool. I mean, have like a unit of just William Wallace's yelling down the field with their great weapons would just be fantastic. So,
Yeah, I like the aesthetic they have just with the horses. It almost brings me a little bit back into like the Lord of the Rings, Gandalf, charging in,
oh yeah.
Helm's Deep type stuff.
Yeah.
But less Gandalf, more Saruman, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Would
would,
be.
that's an idea of mine of like for an army is making like I guess you could say a dark Rohan army, I guess, with that. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
well,
I think that's right. I mean, that's spot on, and the savage looking feel of it, it's just cool. And
mhm.
were they featured in Black Talon in Warhammer Plus?
They
Was it
were
Black
actually,
Talon or maybe it was a
it was
Hammer and Bolter?
exactly because they were also released like a small unit of models based off of the episode of
Yeah.
that, which was I think it was called Monsters. I think that's the name of the
Yep.
episode.
Yep.
And so yeah, and they've also got a book from Black Library coming out based off of a character in that show as well. So yeah, I'm just all around. If you can't tell, I'm super excited for this. I'm
Well,
almost done building my own 1,000 point converted Dark Oath army.
yeah.
So when this drops, I'll add hopefully the other 1,000 to make it a 2K list, and I'm actually hoping to bring it to a tournament coming up here in the spring or in the
That'd
summer.
be cool.
So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, it's cool that we're getting. I don't know. We there's certain armies that each of us like. I know Lee, the chaplain, has been big on the Kroot. I know he's got his eyes on that box set when that releases, and you're looking at the Dark Oath set, and then recently with the Dark Angel set for Steve, and then upcoming for me, Orcs will be coming out soon. Just even though we're talking about Age of Sigmar, I'm not as hyped about the Orc box set because they've only shown off one model and the Stampa didn't get a revision like we
Uh,
talked last time. So yeah, I know, but it's just I don't know. I like the fact that there are these little nuance, offshoots of core armies that we all play, and they get some attention on something
mhm, yeah.
that each of us like, which is cool. So cool stuff. Well, we'll be talking more about the Dark Oath in the future. I did want to hit one other topic, and that's the Dawnbringers Book 5, and that's the Strong Points. Now, personally, both 40K and Age of Sigmar, I'm not one to go into the specific narrative stuff. I usually I bought one narrative book back with 40K, and I mean maybe that was the problem with 40K. 40K has always had this issue. Whenever they release some kind of narrative content, the missions just feel so lifeless half the time,
Mhm,
even though they have some kind of narrative around them. The missions themselves don't do much. They have
mhm,
this go capture these objectives, get these points, and then they'll release a brand new mission, and the mission will be, well, you get the points in this round instead of that round. Like,
uh,
come on,
yeah.
give me a little something. So with the Dawnbringers, I'm going to put this up full screen for those that are watching this on YouTube, but or on Spotify, we have that there as well if you want to watch the video. But this whole thing that they're bringing with Dawnbringers Strong Points is a collection of terrain features, and it's essentially like I want to call it a capture the flag, team battle,
Yeah.
team fortress kind of
Mhm,
deal, where you have your own strong point, meaning a collection of terrain on your side of the board, and then you split up. You could do a two-player game, or you could, more importantly, do a team game, so 2-on-2. And I think that this just sounds great to me. This is I'm always looking for a way to have some kind of multiplayer game, because half the time when we get together to play, it's like, all right, I got 4 people to show up. Well, I guess I'll play you, and then you play the other person, and then we're doing our own thing.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a multiplayer type of battle. But the cool part about this is that, it says here on this particular graphic, each pair of players rolls once on the table to determine which battle plan they fight. So then you've got a weak point, you have lost treasures, all or nothing. Some of this stuff we don't fully know what it means, but more or less, it gives you the ability to use the terrain that's there for Age of Sigmar, gives it special rules and wounds, where you can take it down. And I just think, to me, this is really cool for not just a narrative play, but just, if you're going to get together with your buddies
Hmm.
and play a casual game. Now you got something, you have a reason to use that cool terrain. That, I don't know, Stu, what are your thoughts on this
Yeah, I
new
mean,
mode here?
I totally agree. I think one thing that's kind of cool with it too is that like even like you I think from what I understand is that if you have a team, you can pair off with another person and you're all four playing on board, but it's like you're on like different sides of the battlefield, so
Yeah, yeah.
you're each kind of working towards that goal, which I think is great. I mean, I think especially for like team tournament play and stuff like that. I mean, I think that'd
Hmm.
be like a team narrative event at like a con of some kind. Like that would be great to do. Um, I mean, yeah, I just think it's fantastic with the rules and everything with the like you said the terrain. It's you kind of get to pick and choose like if you want to use them or not, which is
Hmm.
fantastic. But yeah, I mean, it's all around really
I
really really
wish
cool.
I wish they would. I mean, I guess with Age of Sigmar, I wish they would have done this earlier. And hindsight is 2020. But it would have been cool to have this, because we're in the middle of a transition to a new edition of
Hmm.
Age of Sigmar, and this is it reminds me of boarding actions for 40K right before 10th edition. They released this new mode, and it was very similar. It's like a narrative kind of thing where they release a book for it. And they had the whole Arcs of Omen story narrative arc, and no pun intended. And then they released, they had the Vashtor is coming, and they released the models, and here they are, and then they did boarding actions, so all this cool new terrain. And then 10th edition comes out, and it just kind of fizzles. It went away. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still a really cool. It still works. You can still play boarding actions in 10th edition, but it felt like it lost a little bit of its luster,
Hmm.
And I am concerned that maybe this will take off, maybe it won't. I don't know, but as someone who really likes terrain, Stu, do you think this is going to get lost in the shuffle when they go to a new edition, or is this just going to be something they tack on to the new
I
edition?
mean, I don't know. It might just tack on. I think part of the reason why it got released in this book is where the narrative is right now with AOS.
Yeah.
Right now, I think Hammer Hall is getting hit pretty hard, and which is why they started these crusades. The cities of Sigmar started these crusades, and they've built two new cities in Akshi and in Gairan. I can't think of the names of them right now, but I think that might be part of the reason why they released these rules so late in the game with these Dawnbringer books is the fact of like, within the narrative, we've to sit hit pretty hard. Even Hammer
Hmm.
Hall's getting hit pretty hard. So here's a way for you to make your own games for whatever narrative you're playing and still kind of experience it in that way as well. But I mean, I'm always a fan of more ways to play.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to, just more choices for you to have of how you play. It's just I don't know. I just think it's fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a
I
big fan of when you're just kind of limited to one style of play and then that's it. So
I agree.
yeah.
And that's always been my it's been the selling point for Age of Sigmar, and more of the I don't know. Some people like it as a selling point where the this type of stuff, the strong points, the narrative things, are usually associated with randomness. in a game. And some people, especially the competitive crowd, and that's not really our audience who listens to this, but the competitive crowd doesn't want randomness equals bad. It equals, well,
Yeah.
I can't plan for that. And that's fair. I understand.
Yeah, it's understandable.
But I like something that spices it up a little bit, different way to play. 2v2 games sound really fun to me, especially if you've got and someone who loves terrain so much. I'm starting to think now of like, man, I could build something that looks really cool on top of a hill or some kind of
Hmm.
structure that is specific for these strong points, and then build your narrative campaigns around that.
Hmm.
Especially with Skaven, I've always wanted to build some nasty mountain, home where all these little caves and stuff and all the scaffolding all over it. Like that would be a
Hmm.
cool strong point.
Yeah.
Uh,
How
so
would you think they would put this kind of model towards a 40K thing?
Uh, I mean, they haven't released anything good in a while, in my opinion. It's all been low profile terrain. So I would like to see them, especially if they're going to roll it into some kind of Space Marine um, stronghold.
Hmm.
I don't know, any kind of destroyed building or maybe a bunker of some kind. They've released some bunkery terrain. They could do
Hmm.
something with that. Um, but they try to do that a little bit. Strong points, I guess. They do it a little bit with objectives, and they have some scenarios where you can destroy the objectives, but it's just not the same. I think
Hmm.
that they would really have to double down on the terrain, and it's weird because Age of Sigmar, that terrain isn't as big of a deal, right? It's not as big of an emphasis because of the lack of ranged shooting. It's
Hmm.
mostly melee combat. So, I mean, both are I think selling points for either edition, for either game, and I think that's cool. I like variety, and this is just
Hmm.
another thing to add. So.
Yeah.
Well, needless to say, there is, and I'm glad to say this, that there is a lot of excitement and attention coming to Age of Sigmar right now.
Hmm. Oh
Well
yeah.
deserved, and I think just adding more stuff like this is really cool. Adding supplements, new ways to
Hmm.
add to your force, the strong points, the terrain. There's a lot of cool stuff happening with Age of Sigmar.
Hmm.
So maybe we'll see a little bit of a shift. I doubt it because there's so much money and around 40K. But I don't know. I like Age of Sigmar, and I'm excited for more. So all right, now we're gonna transition now to the retro White Dwarf review. So if you're listening to this for the first time, we have a segment that this will be the second time we've done it. First time I thought, I really enjoyed it. I know you
Oh,
guys did
I
too.
loved it. I feel fantastic. I'm excited for this right now. So,
So for those that have never heard this, what I do is I go find an old issue of White Dwarf, and I thumb through it. And by thumb, I mean I'm looking at the digital version, because some of it is available on the archive.org website, the really old stuff, and then others are available through the Warhammer Vault. So I pick a random issue and find some interesting pages on it. Stu and if the other guys are on here have never seen it before, or at least they're
nope,
not aware of what I'm going to bring up. So this
nope.
is their raw take on it. So it's just a fun little thing where we go through and just kind of read through some stuff. And this particular issue is the September 1999 issue 237, and the cover here. First of all, I like the retro White Dwarf logo with the gold
Oh yeah.
shimmer on it.
Hmm.
That's really cool. And this particular cover, for those that are watching or listening rather, is the uh, Eldar, where they had just come out with the Eldar Codex. So this is very 80s metal hairband looking.
Oh yeah.
Even though this
Hmm.
is from 1999, it still gives me that
Yeah.
like 80s rock
It's
look.
got it's got that kind of airbrushed, kind of like shimmer to it too.
Yeah.
You might get it like if you go to the beach or whatever, like that kind of like airbrushed kind of shimmer or
Yeah.
whatever. So
Yeah. But they're playing like maybe I don't know. What would they be playing in the background? 1999. I'm trying to think. Um,
uh
I don't know what would they. I try to man. I'm drawing a blank. Maybe some
Yeah,
Soundgarden or Pearl Jam. I think
there you
that's
go.
what I was
Pearl
probably
Jam. There you
listening
go. Yeah.
to.
Oh,
All right, so we'll move on here, and I'm going to try to do this. I know this is kind of small print for those looking, but this next page is really just the only reason I wanted to bring it up. It just has the table of contents, but at the very bottom left there, shout outs to Battlefleet Gothic. Man, uh, I I always wanted to play this game, and for anyone that's never played Battlefleet Gothic or heard of it, it is like it's like epic 40K, but with spaceships instead.
hmm Or
So
or like I guess equivalent now is like Imperialis. Is that what it is?
yeah,
Like
similar,
like
or it's
like.
like Star Wars Armada. Very, very similar to that. It is a like naval fleet battle
hmm
game, but you're doing it with the specific armies. It, I think, for what I remember, at least, I never got to play it myself, but was fairly popular.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
I
not
think so
not
too.
popular enough, of course, but
Yeah.
I keep thinking maybe they're going to bring it back. That would be really cool. Is I was hoping they were going to bring it back with the Arcs of Omen and boarding action stuff. It would have been perfect because then you could play a game of Battlefleet Gothic or whatever they would call it, and then start tying games together. I'm like, okay, we're going to play this battle first, and then whoever wins, now we're going to play a game of boarding actions, and then whoever wins that game gets an advantage going into the planet fall that we're getting ready to have, and now you're playing a
hmm
larger 40K game, and then you have a kill team game to go along with it. You could tie all this stuff together
Oh yeah.
creatively.
Uh-huh.
So cool. So, and then of course they've got some artwork and some of the retro models here for the Eldar. So it's
Yeah,
just
that
always
was it
interesting.
what is it? Not a screaming scorpion, what is it called? The
I wish
banshee,
I wish I
banshee, is it a screaming banshee? Is that what it
I
is?
I think that's right. I was never an Eldar player and not
Uh,
one to. I never really enjoyed their aesthetic so much. My son did though. So
yeah.
anyway, I was more drawn to the Battlefleet Gothic on this page. Either way.
Yeah, the flowing hair of that screaming banshee is just
Yeah,
I wish my beard would flow that well. So I mean,
yeah.
it would just be fantastic just running
It would be.
through. So
It would be. So next here, I wanted to bring up this just at the bottom of the page of this, uh, you know, the news page where they're talking about the codex for Eldar, of course, but then they have this. I think it's a Imperial Guard model where it is a guy basically on stilts. I don't even know what you would call this thing,
it
but
looks
it
like they're calling
reminds
it a
me.
sentinel, some kind of
Yeah, yeah,
sentinel.
yeah. It is a Sentinel, but I'm saying like I'm trying to compare what it would be, and
Oh
to
yeah.
me, it looks like that the bad robot in RoboCop. The one that comes out with the giant legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what
Uh-huh.
it
Yeah.
reminds me of.
Uh-huh.
So I just thought this was cool. I always
I
love
just love
seeing the
how
retro models.
how like, here it is in this universe, it's all metal and guns, and yet the top of it's completely open. Like, it's like, yeah, like you couldn't just close it in. Like
Nope,
it's just,
nope. It's like
I
a
mean,
convertible.
so but one thing
It does
also
look like somebody like sheared off the top, right?
yeah, another thing I'd say I like about this page as well is the giant list of releases that
Yeah,
coming out. Like, and
that's
I mean, it's just
that's
crazy.
how that's how you had to do it, right?
Like it's just insane the list of stuff. Like, I mean, and it's for 2 months, August and September. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
like in one episode, you get 2 months worth of stuff. Like, it's just yeah.
Well, I mean, I think now with this was in '99, so I remember. Let's see. I mean, the internet was still very. Everybody had. Well, most people had at least dial-up internet at this point. Very few had broadband. I didn't get broadband until I got to college, but
hmm
um, so this was the way that because you didn't really have, and we'll get to some stuff about their website.
hmm
But this was the way you told folks what was coming out, and this does look like a ton of stuff, but it's also just a bunch of SKUs. Where nowadays, like I get irritated if we don't get a ton of new releases every single week. On
hmm
Sundays on the Warcom site when they're showing whatever new stuff's getting ready to come out. I'm like, oh man, that's it. Only 10 items, So yeah, this is cool. All right. So next here, I'm going to bring this up. One of the things I wanted to show is just this ad. Of course, we have an undead models here for Warhammer Fantasy, RIP, which is now, I guess, Age of Sigmar / Old World, depending on how you look at the models. But the main thing for this page is just the bottom half ad where they're talking about the Games Workshop hobby centers. They weren't called Games Workshop stores or whatever, they're called hobby centers, and the grand opening sale, which features grand opening hobby. This is in the one in Ontario, Canada, celebrating a success with a grand opening sale blowout on the weekend of September 11th and 12th. Make sure you stop by and check out these great deals. This is everything in the store 25% off.
Wow.
I'm like, man. And then of course
bring this back. Why? Yeah, bring this back.
I know. Where's the 25% off now? I want a grand opening.
Yeah.
They don't even do any percent off. You'd have to go to your friendly local game store, of course. But I mean, even just the hobby centers, the official Games Workshop stores themselves, they never have any kind of sale of any kind. So the fact that they're doing 20% off, 25% off officially is pretty crazy. And I like this, that every purchase over $100, you receive a free grand opening 1999 t-shirt. I mean, I would love to see if anyone listening to this show has any kind of cool retro t-shirt that they got, as part of a grand opening. Maybe maybe I should clarify retro. If you've got anything that's from maybe the early 2000s or 90s or 80s, of course, anything before that would be even better. But if you got any cool merch like that you received as part of a grand opening or maybe a giveaway, hit us up, contact@dadhammerstudios.com, or tag us on Instagram. I'd love to see it.
One thing I have to also bring up is the fact of so the previous page, they had a giant blue list on the right-hand side of all the 40K stuff coming out. Now turn to the next page. Why the heck is Warhammer only getting 2 models for 2 months? What kind of love is that, man? Literally, they show the model up here on the top hand right hand page. It's some dinky wraiths, some dinky wraiths, for real. I'm only getting 2 models in 2 months, and you're gonna give me some dinky wraiths.
That's okay. Yeah. So it's funny just to see the comparison.
We see where the love's at in 99 or whenever this year just came out.
I mean, they spread it out a little more now, so I think it's better. But very cool to point out. All right, so this is the first page for the Eldar. They had a pretty big spread in this issue about Eldar, which is cool. But I wanted to point out the sprues for this particular squad. I mean, look how simplistic.
Yep.
I mean, of course, there's not a lot you can do with these things, right? You can only shape and pose them. These are just guardian warriors, but you can only do so much with them. Fair, but man, so easy just to clip these things out.
Yeah,
and assemble.
That was something that came up again with the fact of Old World being released and them using the old fantasy models for the. It's to see the spacing. Now that would be full. That would probably be 2 whole units in those 2 sprues. Instead of what it looks like 4 or 5 models. It's just it's insane the technology of sprue making right now.
Yeah, so we're trying to do a better job describing for those listening. I mean, just the sprues here from the 99 era are just, there's tons of I would say white space. That doesn't really make sense, but imagine these on a background of white paper, and there's just tons of white space because they don't cram it full of extra little bits and parts. So there is some elegance in its simplicity, I will say. So pretty cool to see. Next here is a full page spread for the Eldar craft world, where they're just showing off. I like how they've got the different models, and some of these really don't look like they've changed too much. But one thing I want to draw attention to is just how boring the terrain is. I mean, it's pretty bland. It just looks like it's just the brown tan desert color with some craters and stuff. But there's just no pop to it.
Well, what it is that the orcs just got there and they just started building,
True,
and then
true.
all of a sudden, this craft world of
They brought the junkyard terrain, as you can see
exactly, yeah.
there in the
Like
corner.
we're like, hey, we just started building our fence. Like, what the heck? Can you give us a couple of minutes?
Yeah, I mean that's basically what they did. It's just a little scrap piece of terrain, but everything else is just boring craters. So come on, Craft World, you can do a little better than that.
Craft
All
world
right,
craters.
so I wanted to bring this up because they're showing off. This is a Rogue Trader War Room where they're talking about it's August and it means the last month of summer vacation for tons of people out there. Make those remaining vacation days count and stop in one of these Rogue Trader stores for one of your favorite games. And the reason I wanted to bring it up is because they have some cool pictures of the War Room in Norcross, Georgia. So for Stu and I are, and the rest of the crew are based out of Tennessee. So this is fairly close to where we are. And I just like the retro pictures of the tables and setup. But more importantly here, I got the next one, which is the Rusty Scabbard, which is a great name. And when I saw
Oh,
this, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I've heard of this store, Lexington, Kentucky. I spent some time in Lexington in my youth, and the Rusty Scabbard, I looked it up, so I've got a picture here. The Rusty Scabbard is still going strong.
nice.
So this is the before and after, and the top left there we got the picture from the Rusty Scabbard back in the day and Lexington, Kentucky, and then the bottom right is the modern day
Do they have rocking
equivalent.
chairs as their gaming tables?
They do.
Like oh man, that's fantastic. I love that
I
so much.
I didn't even notice that. That's pretty great. Yeah,
Like you can't get any more Kentuckian than putting rocking chairs as
it's like
your
Cracker
chair.
Barrel,
Yeah,
but
exactly. Yeah,
Warhammer.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
that's cool.
that's fantastic.
Very cool. Very cool. I just thought that was a good call out. All right, so the next one here is more Games Workshop hobby centers. Find out what we're all about. I like the retro stuff, but they showed a clip or a piece of art here about Stop the Wog. So it's all about orcs, but I think it's cool because they have a narrative around the stores. When they say hobby centers, they really mean just the Warhammer stores, Games Workshop stores at the
Yeah.
time. But they had a narrative around the store, so you could visit one and know kind of what you're getting into. But it was themed. It's almost like instead of decorating for Christmas, you would decorate for an orc invasion, which I think is cool. I wish they would. I wish they would do more of that in modern stores. Right, it'd be themed more for the quarter, for example. Q1 we're gonna theme it all around Dark Angels. Q2 it's all going to be Stormcast or Darkoath or whatever. Like that would be cool to have a narrative around that.
Or theming around where all gaming tables have rocking chairs. I mean,
I mean, we could start a
that would,
revolution. I
yeah.
think we should start a campaign now. Like it would go along with our brand, Dad Hammer. Like we're gonna bring our own rocking chair to the game stores.
just fold it out, whip it out. Just like, hey,
Yeah. We're gonna partner with Cracker Barrel, and we're gonna bring some biscuits,
a
biscuits
giant
and
oak
gravy.
chair that's like branded with the Dad Hammer logo. Like, just, I mean, yeah.
I mean, that sounds pretty great to me. So, all right. This is another spread on Orky tactics, and I
Ooh.
just thought it was cool because I don't think they do this kind of stuff in the modern White Dwarf magazines where they're really of course the orcs have a lot of funny accents and spelling and all that kind of stuff around it. And what's cool with this though is that they're talking all about the orcs, but really giving you some flavor for tactical analysis and saying, hey, these are what the shooter boys are really good at. These are what the killer cans are really good at. Where should you put them? You should put them in the front. This is what you should be, thinking about and be afraid of. And then they take it one step further, and they give you some pictures of these old models. And the thing I wanted to point out too, though, was that the mega knobs there on the right, the ones with the armor and the claws and stuff, they still have not changed those models. Like I mean, it's almost what
Wow.
we're coming up on. Yeah, so we're coming up on close to 20 years, give or take. I don't know. I guess it's more like 15, but still, we're coming up on 15 years, and they still haven't changed those models. And for that reason, I kit bashed my own, orc meganobs because they just look so stupid.
Nice.
They look derpy to me.
Hmm.
Derpy is the best word I could use to describe them.
I like on
But
this page they got an art section about mob size of like
yeah,
how big your unit should be, which I think is really
mm-hmm,
cool. I think that's
mm-hmm,
one thing with I mean with a guy that goes to tournaments, like that'd be kind of
yeah,
cool to know. Like maybe I shouldn't bring a unit of like 10 ogres instead of 5 or whatever. So it's kind of
mm-hmm,
cool.
yeah,
But
agreed.
but yeah, I mean it's this whole spread, all the killer and the mega armor and everything. I mean, they're still fighting on that derpy, desert place. I mean, I guess orcs are slow builders. I guess I don't know. I mean,
Maybe so,
they,
or they're trying to bring life to these other planets that are really boring. That's the
yeah.
way I look at it. Yeah. So here is an ad for their first stop in Baltimore, where it says for the third year in a row, 120 commanders gathered at the. This is why I pulled it out. The BWI Holiday Inn. I don't know why. Like this was the state of Warhammer in 1999, where they had to call out, shout out to the BWI Holiday Inn in Baltimore. They came from all over the globe, mustering their forces for this titanic onslaught at the Holiday Inn. And then they have these trophies at the bottom, which some look cool, some are kind of. Oh, wait a minute. One looks like it was made, in third grade for like a craft fair or something. Uh, what's the mug? Is that Brugman's or
uh, it's yeah, Bugman's.
Bugman's, not Brugman's.
Yeah,
Sorry, I got the Baltimore, all that stuff on the mind. But yeah, I mean, uh, uh, come on, like make the mug a little nicer. It
yeah. I mean,
looks kind of dollar store to me.
I like the one that's like, well, I like both of them. I like the two smaller ones. It's like, yeah, I'll just stack a bunch of skulls and some, balsa wood together, and there you go. There, there's the trophy. Like,
So
yeah.
somebody won this thing and was really excited about it at the time, and then it ended up in a box at grandma's house, and
Hmm.
they brought it out for like, what is this? I don't know, throw it away. I'll tell you what, the skull with I guess it's I repent on it,
Hmm.
looks pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I'd take
Well,
that one, I think.
and then also got to say the one that's the tower,
Yeah,
multi-purposed. Okay, it's terrain also. So I mean, it's a
yeah.
win. It's a win-win. You get an award, but at the same time, you got another terrain piece to add to the table.
Maybe that's what they're going for.
So
But just again, shout out to the Holiday Inn. So we're gonna go through this. I thought this was hilarious. This is when they're really touting their new website. So again, in this technologically advanced age, this is
a
September
web of
1999,
ideas.
and to be fair, the internet was really starting to take off. You can find any information you are looking for with a simple click of a button. Wow. However, looking up obscure recipes and sending virtual greeting cards gets stale quickly. What you really need is a potent dose of the Games Workshop hobby. Use the internet to bring the best games and miniatures straight to your door and get closer to the 41st millennium than anyone on your block. So, a couple of things stand out to me on that. First of all, look at that sweet website
Yeah.
with all the text and very little formatting. It could,
Hmm.
I mean, it's all HTML at the time. You really didn't
I
have
mean,
any.
I mean, they literally just like copied and pasted a magazine
Yeah,
page to the
yeah.
website. Like, I mean, that's pretty much
I
all it
mean, but
is.
that's what you did. Everything was coding. You didn't have there wasn't drag and drop really. You just had to put in your HTML tags. But the what I like though is it says, however, looking up obscure recipes and sending virtual greeting cards. Man, I sent so many what we called them at the time e-cards. We sent e-cards all the time. I don't know if you ever did that, but I would
Hmm.
send them to my friends mostly as jokes, where we just like you send them a virtual uh, greeting card, birthday card when it wasn't their birthday. We were bored. What are you gonna do? But yeah, so I love the website, and they're also talking about what they should put on the website. So they're like, oh, we're going to have a how-to section, how to show anyone interested just how to accomplish many of the different aspects and techniques you can find in our hobby. Like it was just so I guess just early. Nobody really knew what to put on a website.
Well,
They
all
were
I gotta
just
say is that if they would have done this for their new website, it probably wouldn't have gotten as much backslash
no. Okay.
as it did. So I'm just saying, GW, if you're listening again, call me up. I got some
Come
ideas.
on.
Okay,
It's not that bad, but it's not that great either. So we'll just stick with that. All right. Moving on. Here you go. Here's some Warhammer fantasy for you. Warhammer Top Gear. I just thought this was cool because it features everything about chariots and the golden
that's
rules
cool.
of
Yeah,
charioteering. Just very simple. 3 rules. Always charge. Number 2, maximize the damage. And number 3, take care of the animals.
is that what it says?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah, the thing
yeah.
on the second page there. You got to
That's
take care of the
funny.
animals whenever you're looking at a chariot. So,
All I gotta say is
chariots are cool.
that army that they've got on the left hand side, all chariots, man, that would be a sick army to run. I mean, I
I
thought about doing
agree.
that with my slaves to darkness, so
I
but
hear
yeah,
you. I hear you.
so
All
and
right.
also
So,
I'm a pretty big fan of
oh,
chariots. I mean, I like chariots a lot. I think they're pretty cool. I think
I agree.
it's a good little centerpiece model to add to your collection.
I agree. And here's another ad for Games Workshop recruitment. If you're looking for a job, if you're a hobby enthusiast. But one thing I wanted to point out, where they're telling you what you need to have in order to apply for this job. If you have good phone manner, excellent computer skills, it's important to have excellent computer skills, and a love for the Games Workshop hobby, then a career in trade sales is right for you. Good phone manner, I guess that's just don't be a jerk on the phone.
Hmm.
What's to me. But would you say you have excellent computer skills? That's the trick. And what level of computer skills? This would be the Windows
Yeah,
98 era. So if you're Windows 95 or DOS, I don't know if this is the right job for you.
yeah,
Is what I
yeah.
would say.
I just love how they use a like screaming, running in, guns a blazing Imperial Guardman as the image for this. It's like this is
Buy
what
Warhammer.
exactly this is how you're going to act when you're trying to get people to buy your product. It's just yelling and
Got
screaming, running
got
in
to
the
be
door.
edgy. Got
So,
to look cool.
so
Yeah. All right, so here's another one called the Butcher Shop. But
ooh,
what's
this
cool
is
is that
cool.
it's called the Butcher Shop, not because that's a recurring segment on this magazine. It's called the Butcher Shop because there was a dude called Mike Butcher. Maybe
What?
that's his real name. I don't know,
Oh, I
but
see
he
it. Yeah.
won at the Chicago Grand Tournament this year. There was a great buzz about the Warhammer 40,000 tables. This was a Nurgle army that was. I guess custom Nurgle army that this guy, I don't think he's a Warhammer staff member, but whatever, pretty cool. And I want to call attention to the image on the right, which is Lothar Bubonicus. Yeah, I guess like bubonic plague.
Yeah.
What a weird looking model. Like you see the
Yeah.
mouths and the
It is creepy as heck.
man, it's very retro, but you could totally release this one again. It's almost like the what's I'm drawing a blank. What's the giant Nurgle model with the mouth in the middle?
Oh, the unclean one
Unclean
or
one. Yeah, great unclean one.
mhm.
Funny story about the great unclean one. He's now 16, but when he was younger and he first saw the Great Unclean One box, but for whatever reason, and he's told me this was real, he thought it said Uncle Owen, like Star Wars Uncle Owen. And he's like, that's weird. Why would they call it Uncle Owen? And then, it was like 2 or 3 weeks later, we were in there again. He's like, oh, it's the Great Unclean One. So in his head, he kept calling the Great Unclean One Uncle Owen forever. So anytime that
Mhm.
pops up, oh, look, it's Uncle Owen. All right, another shout out to Battlefleet Gothic again. I mean, look how cool this game is. Man, I would love to see this
It'd
back
be
on the
easy to
tabletop.
paint. It's definitely an easy to paint kind of
Oh,
game.
for
So,
sure. For
I
sure.
mean, you've
I wish they would bring it back. Yeah, and then it's basically you paint the models black and then you dry brush. And
yeah,
maybe you put a few little details.
yeah, pick out
It's
some
like
silver parts.
yeah, it's very much like Epic 40K, but man, I really would love for them to bring this back, and I would assume that assembling the models would be incredibly easy as well. So pretty cool. And then lastly, just wanted to throw this up here. I think it's cool for Battlefleet Gothic that they had a fleet registry. So this is the just a throwback. This is how you would, I guess, the app version. This would be on the app nowadays, but just cool to see where you would list your ships, and then this is where you would track your wounds and stuff, and they give you all of the ability to do that with the
Hopefully,
fleet
better
registry.
like the photocopy, because that'd be a pain in the
yeah, it would be like, but it's still I just more for the just looks cool. I want to see Battlefleet Gothic make its return, but sadly I don't think that's going to happen. So well, that will do it for this issue of Retro White Dwarf. We hope that for those that are watching, hope that you enjoyed that, and listening, hopefully we were able to kind of listen along. We try to do a better job of describing what's going on in this particular issue. So thank you so much, as always, for listening to our show. We really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed this content. Bearded Ogre Stu, I appreciate your time, your attention, and your service, sir.
Yeah,
Always
baby.
a pleasure and a privilege. That will, I guess, do it. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm sending us off with. Anything else exciting? No, that's really, I think Retro White Dwarf is just where my head's at right now. I'm just contemplating all of the cool stuff back from 1999. Maybe we'll do another issue in a month or so.
Do you want to do a little call out for the surprise stream?
We do have something coming up, and I'll mention that. We'll throw that out on our Instagram.
Okay.
But I will mention that very soon. So with that, I'll leave that with the teaser. We have a very important interview coming up, so check that out soon. For everyone listening, and myself and Stu, the Bearded Ogre, everyone at Dad Hammer, we will catch you next time. Take care, everyone.
Peace.